Good morning, sunshines. It is February 21st, 2019. I am a long time, almost 5 years, post-op vertical sleeve gastrectomy update. Welcome to Lizland and also my bed, because obviously, don't you love me making videos from bed? Don't answer that. So what's up this week? For those of you who don't know me, my stats are below. Starting weight was 402 pounds. I've maintained about 180-pound weight loss for the last 4 years, pretty much, which is pretty good, if I do say so myself. So last week we talked about whether you were happier pre or post weight loss surgery. It sounded for the most part that everybody is happier post weight loss surgery, and some people kind of said what and phrased it maybe a little bit better than I did. Ria and Chella, sort of like this idea of you give a, well, Ria's comment was more like you give a mouse a cookie, so it's like this happens and this happens and then this happens, and that's kind of how I see it. And Chella also sort of embraced my philosophy of, yes, I'm happier, but I'm continuing to grow as a person, and it's not all about the weight, which is absolutely true for me. So a couple things I want to talk about today. Number one is the results of my fitness challenge, and number two is this idea of listening to my body. So I started back I feel like everybody knows me forever, but I posted a picture today for Throwback Thursday of me when I was in my plank stage, and a lot of people, particularly on Instagram, didn't know me during that time. So not everybody has followed me for 5 years. But I started working out with my nephew, who's a personal trainer, who's married to my niece, who's a personal trainer, 6 weeks post-op. And if it would not have been him, I would have never kept up the consistency with this. But because there was a family connection, and I knew I would be seeing it during that early part of the journey when it was super hard, when I was working out, when I weighed 350 pounds, that kind of kept me coming back in a way that I wouldn't have with somebody who I didn't know. So now it's almost 5 years later. There have been a few ebbs and flows in that workout journey, but I've been back working out consistently since August, and since January I really kicked it up a notch. And at the beginning of the year, his gym offered a fitness challenge that was basically, 6 weeks of unlimited working out, plus, there was a Facebook group and nutritional guidance and things like that. I really focused on the exercise piece because obviously what works for me as a weight loss surgery patient is different than what works for other people. But at the beginning of the 6 weeks, they did a body composition test. It's a similar machine to the ones that they have at like the weight loss surgery conferences, only it doesn't have a printout. You have to take a picture of it, write it down from the display. But it's the same thing where you have your feet on the thing and you're holding up your hands and whatever you call that. And then that 6 week challenge ended on Monday. So we did that again, and I was super pleased with the results. So I'm a daily weigher because I think that's important for me to stay on track with and not be in denial about what's going on with my weight. And my weight has not consistently changed over that 6 weeks. I mean, there's been a little fluctuation of a couple pounds up, a couple pounds down, but I'm basically stayed around the same weight. But all of my pants fit again, which honestly, in July, only 2 pairs of my pants fit. So actually I have 1 pair of my very favorite jeans that don't fit yet because they have not an iota of stretch in them. But all my other pants are fitting again. I'm feeling comfortable and good about my body, but my weight hadn't really changed. So it was really great to see 6 weeks down the road what that change was. And that change was that I lost 6.5 pounds of fat and I gained 4 pounds of muscle. So I take that as a huge win. And I am going to, even though the challenge is over, I'm going to continue to measure those results every 6 weeks and share them with you guys. So just so you know, I do sort of it's not exactly CrossFit, but sort of, and strength training and whatever. I work out. I I try to hit 5 days a week. I go at 5 o'clock every morning. And it's a small group. It's like today there were only 2 of us at 5 in the morning with Brandon, my trainer. Some days there's as many as 5 at 5 o'clock in the morning. And there's a strength portion and a fitness portion. And most days it kicks my motherfucking ass. Sorry if children are listening. So I feel really good about that. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is a couple weeks ago. So I had been on the keto bandwagon for a couple years, and I don't know, a couple weeks ago, a month ago, I just started not. Well, first of all, I was. If I look back of when I started trying to do keto and where I was 2 years later, I was actually up 10 pounds, and I think keto is a great lifestyle if it works for you. But what that was telling me was it's not working. It's not working for me because it's not working for me. It's 2 years later and I'm up 10 pounds. And obviously I'm not able to stick to it consistently enough. So I started to think about that. And I also started to think about the mentality I developed over the past 2 years, which was very much this idea of I'm doing things wrong or bad or whatever if I fail at keto. And the other thing was my philosophy before I started doing keto from when I had weight loss surgery on was, there were certain things I did, which was 60, 80 grams of protein, drink my water, take my vitamins, move my body intentionally, intentionally be lower carb, but that was not no carb or 20 grams of lesser carb or whatever. I didn't really, even the first couple years when I was tracking, I didn't even pay attention to my carbs. If I go back and look, they were, between 50 and 100 grams a day, which is still relatively low carb in the world. And that's how I lost the weight and kept it off for the length of time that I did. And so I was like, okay, and the other thing was, and then if I wanted something that was quote unquote bad, which I really hate that idea of foods being bad. If I wanted ice cream, I would go to Baskin Robbins. I would get a scoop of ice cream. I wouldn't have it in my house. I wouldn't have it easy to get. I mean, I had to intentionally decide that I wanted it and go and get it, and I would eat it and it would be done and I would go home. Well, what I noticed on keto was because I felt like I'm never going to get that, whatever it is. So if I would blow it, I would be like, I have to eat all the ice cream or all the donuts or all whatever I can within the limits of, my weight loss surgery. And that is a way that I managed my weight my entire life. And then you get the guilt, and then you get the starting Monday, and then you get that. And I'm like, okay, done with that. I can't do that. So initially I was just like, let's just go back to the basics and of protein, of low carb but not keto, of nothing being bad or off, completely off limits. So that's what I started with. And then I started thinking about the fact that, really when I went to I went to a weight loss surgery, information session probably like 3 times in my life. The last time I went before I got it, I got so pissed off at the doctor because there's a whole bunch of group of very overweight people sitting in this room. And the doctor said, if you eat because you're not hungry, weight loss surgery isn't going to work for you. I'm like, well, obviously everybody in this room eats because they're hungry, or they are eating because they aren't hungry, because if they were only eating when they were hungry, we wouldn't look like this. So that really pissed me off, and it really turned me off. And, after I had surgery, I sort of got it, because if you're going to graze all day long, if you're going to push your sleeve to the limits and, eat and wait 5 minutes, and as soon as you can eat something else, yeah, it isn't going to work for you. But I really started thinking about this and thinking, maybe I am ready to take on this sort of what I feel is the next part of this journey and the emotional part of the journey. The what you're supposed to eat, how you're supposed to exercise, all these things, it's not rocket science. And most of us who have been overweight our entire lives knew all this stuff before we even had weight loss surgery. It's just weight loss surgery gave us the ability to, at least for a little while, do it. And where I feel really fortunate is that I feel like I really developed a solid base of good habits during the honeymoon period of my weight loss surgery. But it's like, okay, now I need to look at this part where maybe I need to start listening, trusting my body and eating only when I'm hungry. And I have been within a couple months. Not everybody after they have weight loss surgery gets hungry, but I do. And Amy, my friend Amy, actually a video, probably because we've been talking about this and because your phone listens to everything you say, in her YouTube feed, a video I did several years ago popped up where I was playing with my bangs because I never do that. Where I was talking about hunger, and she said, you're saying exactly the same thing you're talking about it now. But a lot of people who have weight loss surgery don't have hunger. I have had hunger since a couple months post-op, and initially that pissed me off, but then as I got further out, I actually appreciated it because that's a sign from my body that's telling me that I need to eat. It doesn't mean I need to drop everything and eat, but it's a sign from my body. So what I decided to try this week, which has been interesting, is only eat when you're hungry. And I generally, unless I'm somewhere where the food is like really amazing, I don't eat to the point of pressure or discomfort. Hardly ever. I mean, occasionally still 5 years post-op, it'll sneak up on me. I mean, in the beginning, always, I wouldn't know. It would be one bite and I would be the point of normal versus uncomfortable. Sorry, my phone is ringing, but I'm going to hang up on them because I'm talking to you guys. So I don't generally eat to that feeling of discomfort or fullness. I generally like to stop before I have any kind of pressure or feeling, and I'm fairly certain of when that's going to be now. So that's what I've been doing this week. And what did I notice? Number one, if you only do that, you don't eat very much. Number two, there are certain times that are very emotional driven eating times for me, like before bed. There's something about me wanting comfort or fullness before I go to sleep. So it's been very interesting to know I'm not hungry. I'm not eating right now. And then I had one day this week where I got super frustrated about some work stuff and communication stuff, and I felt like I was banging my head against the wall, and I ate. So it was just very interesting to me to sort of get clear on when I'm eating. So what I'm doing now is trying to only eat when I'm hungry. I'm trying to, my goal is to fast. Right now I'm doing 13 hours. I'm just bumping it up a half hour a day. But if it gets to a point where it's uncomfortable and I'm hungry for hours, I'm going to pull it back. But I would like to maintain a 12-hour fast every day because I think it just gives your body a chance to burn fat and reset and whatever. So that's been interesting. So I'd love to hear, and in talking with my friend group about this, it's so interesting to hear the different ways people perceive hunger and fullness and all the things. So anyway, that's what I got going on this week. Today's my dad's birthday. Happy birthday, Dad. He doesn't watch my videos, but he's 76 today. We went out to dinner, and so we went out to dinner yesterday to Fleming's, which is an amazing steakhouse, and it was the best they have the best. I'm sorry, I'm such a potty mouth. They have the best steaks. And so I got steak and we split. He got a steak and a baked potato, and we split like a cream spinach. And even as good as that steak was, I did not eat. I stopped eating before I had that any sense of uncomfortableness in my body. And it's awesome. And I have, half steak left over to eat later. So, and I didn't leave feeling yucky. So anyway, that's what I got going on this week. What are you guys working on this week? Let me know down below in the comments or on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. Instagram is my playground. I love Instagram. If you aren't on Instagram, you should be on Instagram because Liz says. All right, I will see you guys next week.